And the reason we have two hands is one, so you can lift up people that need to be lifted up, and the other you can extend so others can lift you up. And that's a easy question to answer because it was a hard decision to make. If your contribution is not significant, why are you even there? That knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. That's the most valuable in my team is not the one who nods the head and accepts, but is the one that says why. Right? Knowledge is the only wealth that grows when it's given.
I got this question asked in an interview, like, are you a hare or a tortoise? So I would relate to you. What would you answer like for this question? Like, are you a hare or are you a tortoise?
I would like to be an owl because an owl is wise. And that's what I would like to be, right? I often say that knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. And knowledge is when you know how to apply what you know. Wisdom is when you know what not to do and when not to do. And I think to me, that's what I would like it to be. Neither a tortoise nor a tortoise nor a hare, but an owl can fly, but it chooses to sit down and think about it before it flies as well. And so I think it's important to really have the wisdom because without the wisdom, we are going to succumb to pressure around us, and that's not going to help any one of us. This is where I say the person that's the most valuable in my team is not the one who nods the head and accepts, but is the one that says why, right? The one that asks the question, why are we doing this? Why shouldn't we focus on something else? Or is there an alternative? At least to even entertain that thought is very important. And without it, I think we are going to be in trouble. I think it's not about writing code. Software development is not as much about writing code. It's to more about how do we take this to production? How do we sustain this? How do we maintain it? This is one of the things I deal with, right? When I was a programmer for other companies, my life was easy because all I have to do is to go to work, write code, but I didn't have to worry about the consequences after that. Somebody else had to worry about it. Now that I'm a programmer for my own company, I kind of look at it from both angles. If we make poor things, I end up paying the price for it. And it's not fun for me to pay the price for it. So I try to be more rigorous in my programming so I don't waste much time and money in the long run. I think that's kind of where we need to really ask the question, what are we trying to achieve? Well, a better interview question probably is, I always ask this question, right? If you stop somebody at the door, right? You can try this. Stay at the door, at the gate of your company, right? In your building. As somebody's walking in, ask them, could you please stop for a minute? And you ask them, if you don't show up to work today, what's the consequence? And see how many people can answer that question, right? If you don't walk into this building today, if I turn you around today and say, enjoy the day, go to the park, have a good time, what is the consequence to the company? How many people can actually answer that question? So my question is, if your contribution is not significant, why are you even there? What's the point in showing up? So I don't want to be that cog in this big giant wheel. I want to know, what is your role? Why are you significant being here? And the worst word in English, I would say hands down, the worst words in English, I cringe when I hear people say this. When they say, this is beyond my pay grade. I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't say it. Because when you say it's beyond my pay grade, that is a different way of saying, I am indifferent. I don't care. I just get paid and I'm going to do what's needed to get my paycheck, right? To me, I'm always that person who comes in and says, hey, this can be better. This is rubbish. We shouldn't be doing this. It's wasting people's time and money. We should rethink about how we do things because I want this to be better. Even in areas where it's not my concern to change those things, because you develop an attitude to say you don't want to put up with nonsense. You want to do things better. And I think that is the overall thing. I would ask the person, if we hire you, what is your role? Your title is maybe a senior programmer or a programmer or a junior developer, or give any title, right? Software architect. But that's your title. But what is your role? And to me, that is the important thing to ask. And what are you going to do being here? Um, are you the person who walks by and there's a paper on the floor and you're like, yeah, somebody dropped it. That's not my problem. Or do you take the paper and put it away so it's not on the path, right? So that is the key. How much do you care about where you are? That is the concern I would have of people that work with me, because genuinely when they care, they work towards a better solution. When they don't care, they're like, I'm going to take an easy route. I'm going to just do what's necessary minimally, and that's not a great team to build, in my opinion.
So, in this, Venkat, one more question that whenever we join a company, they always ask you, like, why should we hire you? Why are you a great candidate? But the candidate doesn't ask the same question to the leader itself. That
Beautiful.
why should we be in your team? Like, what positive thing or like whatever things are you bringing to my life, since we're gonna be a great part of my life. It's a big part. It's 1/3 of my part. So how do I select a good manager? Like, I can't select the manager, right? So like, how can I be effective in that? Uh, in selecting like which team should I join, or like how do I even evaluate someone that okay, they are a great leader or a good leader?
Right. And great question, great question. But it's also beyond the leader or the manager. This is the question I always ask. Uh, you often are wondering if the candidate is right for you. But a more important question is the organization right for the candidate? So in had that many jobs. I have to admit that. I've had very few jobs in my life. I quit working for companies. I am almost into 27 years of freelance consulting now. But when I did have jobs, the very first interview I went to, uh, I was interviewing the company that I was being interviewed at. So they would ask me questions. I would turn around and ask them questions. How do you use these stuff? Tell me your work culture. Tell me what your day is like. These are the questions I would ask. And the very first job I ever interviewed, I got an offer within half a day. Their president of it was a smaller company. The president of the company literally called me at 6:30 in the evening. I would never forget this, right? I go to the interview in the morning. I come back home and I'm sitting around 6:30, my phone rings. And this is the president of the company saying, hey, you came for the interview today. I wanted to call in and personally extend an offer for you. And here's the offer. When can you start? And I said, thank you for that, but I'm not accepting the offer. And his first question is, oh, where do you work right now? And I said, I don't have a job. I said, I don't have a job. I'm a student. I'm just getting ready to graduate. And he said, so let me make sure I understand this. You don't have a job, and I'm offering you a job, and you don't want to take it. I'm like, that's right. Like, why? And I said, I'm sorry, with all respect, this is not the team that I want to work in. This is not the company that I want to work in. This is not the right place for me. So I'm not kidding with you. I rejected my first offer and I was without job for 6 months before I found the next job. But when I found the next job, I'm not exaggerating to you. This is way before the time of cell phones, right? We didn't have cell phones back then. And so I finished my interview. I come down to the lobby and I asked the assistant on the front desk, ma'am, do you mind if I use your phone? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. And I take the phone, I dial my wife, and I go away from her, and I tell my wife, please pray for me. that I should get this job. She was like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, this is exactly where I want to work. And it was the right team for me. And I'm like, this is exactly what I want to work. And that was my first job I got, right? And that's the first job I started working in because I wanted to work there. And they wanted me to work there as well because I had all the things they needed. So what do I look for? The first thing I look for is A, will I be able to contribute to the team when I join? That's the first question because I need to offer my skills. But as equal, will I have people from whom I can learn along the way? So I never want to be in a position where I will give what I have, but not able to gain my and grow my skills. That is the key. In the first job I interviewed, I felt like I was going to be the smartest person in the team. I wouldn't be learning as much from them. It didn't give me the vibe that they will nurture me to growth. In the second team, my mind was blown because the things these people knew and were doing, I'm like, I want to learn those skills. So always I would say it's not about what you can do for the company, but is that the right place for you is extremely important for us to know as a candidate. And as a company, that is also what you want to know from a candidate. Because if it's not the right place for the candidate, they probably are not going to be productive and be, really the right person to produce results. And you might as well find somebody who will thrive in that environment rather than one that's not going to be happy in there. So it's both ways. So I couldn't agree more with your question. But beyond the manager, it's the team itself and the company, the culture, the organization. All of those, I think, are very important to consider. I think we have a frozen connection.
Hello.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible. I think question has went up. Like, yeah. So, Venkat, I wanted to know one more thing. Like, so, in our field or space where we work, there's a requirement to, learn, keep growing or keep learning. And with that critical thinking also, like, it's important while you have the critical thinking, it's important that you keep exploring new stuff as well. So, many times it happens that we start learning a new technology and we, enroll for a course, we complete the course, but still, we tend to forget a few things after a few months or so, right? So I just wanted to know your thoughts, like from your experience, what's the best way of, or maybe an ideal way of, learning a new technology so that it sticks with you?
I would say it's okay to forget, right? There's nothing, no harm done in it. And you're going to forget things. One of the things I found out is memorization almost never works. And especially with the technology we have today, that's the least thing we actually need to do. But to me, the way I would ask the question is, what are the things I would remember and what are the things I would forget? The things I would forget.
Am I audible?
Yep, you are.
Yeah.
The things I would forget quite often are the syntax, for example. But the things I would remember are the semantics. Just to give you an example of this, I was teaching a course on software design, and we were talking about several things. And suddenly I blurted out saying, oh, by the way, that's how it works in Java, but it works very differently in C++. And immediately, one of the developers said, wait, I program every day in C++. That's my primary language. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. And I said, well, you know what? After the class, if you want to stay behind, we can talk about it. So the class is over. He stays behind and says, I want you to go over this again because you said something that intrigues me. I was not aware of that. And I said, well, first of all, I got to admit to you, the last time I coded in C++ was a few decades ago. And so I will demonstrate this for you, but I will need your help because as I'm going to start writing the code, I'm going to struggle because that's not in my mind anymore. He was like, yeah, don't worry about it. I write code in C++ every day. I'll be with you. So I start typing the code in C++. He's kind of guiding me what to write. And then I demonstrate it. And then he's like, wow, I did not know this is the way C++ behaves. And to that point, I was able to remember something from literally 35 years ago, but I can't remember the syntax, right? So there are things I would remember and there are things I wouldn't. But in general, I would say things I remember are the semantics. The things I don't remember are the syntax. So the semantics is how things behave. And those are fundamentals. Syntax can change over time, but the semantics don't. But the semantics are the ones, syntax is what you look at, semantics is what you see. So you should be able to see through the syntax into the semantics. And so that's kind of what you need to remember. If we again apply critical thinking, you start really gravitating towards that gist that you identify, right? You can ask me, what is the difference between this framework and that framework? I may not be able to write the code in any of those frameworks instantaneously because I may not remember the syntax on the top of my head, but I can tell you what the differences are because that's what you focus on in terms of what you want to really keenly understand. So don't punish yourselves for forgetting things. You are going to forget things because, as Da Vinci said, mind is not a vessel to be filled with liquid, but the one that need to be set on fire, he said. To me, that is the key. I don't want to ever ask somebody, how do you write this code in Java? But instead I would ask them, how does this behave internally? What does that mean? What are the consequences of using something, right? That's when you know they've gone deeper into understanding something. And when you go deeper into understanding something, you remember that depth a lot more than the shallow things that you come across every day. So you have to find the technique to know what to focus on. And the deeper you go and figure things out, the more you begin to learn interesting things. You can Google for syntax, but it's really hard to Google for semantics unless you know exactly what to ask for. So those are the things you want to really focus on and really try to imbibe that into your mind as to why we have these solutions. What are the differences? What are the pros and cons? And you could generalize it as saying, if you apply critical thinking, you're going to learn those things much better.
I think critical thinking is the key over here as well.
It certainly is. Yeah.
So, Venkat, on this part, I really wanted to know that since you are at such a senior level that when I call you Venkat, it like kind of hurts me. Like I want to call you sir. So, sir, whenever we like get to this stage, so for you, did you ever face the imposter syndrome, or we call the fraud police, at some point in your life? That okay, you might not be knowing enough, or why are you even here? That someone might knock on your door and say that this work can be done by someone else. So have you ever faced that?
Honestly, I never have imposter syndrome. And the reason I don't is I don't even spend any time thinking about my seniority at all. To me, I'm the kid in the candy store. That's what I really am. This is the beauty of the field we are in. You cannot become complacent about what you do because to me, learning is like peeling onion. And there are two outcomes of peeling an onion, right? When you peel an onion, you realize there are more layers you could peel. And when you peel an onion, you also cry. It's very frustrating. And once you figure out the joy of learning, I once posted on social media, I said, what's amazing being in this field is you wake up in the morning thinking you know everything, and you go to bed thinking you have no clue what you're doing. And to me, honestly, it's not about the imposter syndrome for me. It's actually the humbleness of our life. To me, it's truly humbling for me to wake up and realize there's a different angle to this. There are different perspectives. I would talk to a colleague, doesn't matter how many years of experience they have. They could be fresh out of college or they could have worked for 15 years, but they say something and immediately it triggers something in my mind. I'm like, wait, I've got goosebumps on my body now because you made me think about something in a way that's different. Take something as simple as cohesion, right? I know cohesion. I've talked about it for 20 years. I wake up one morning and realize that cohesion is in a very different way than I have been thinking about. And to me, that's a very humbling experience. So I don't have time for Stockholm syndrome because it only comes in when I feel like I'm senior, I'm accomplished. It's quite the opposite. I always say I'm the first student in my class all the time. And there's so much to learn, there's so much to unlearn every day. And so I never have that feeling as to I walk in somewhere that they should accept me. Not at all. It's something where I need to go figure out things. I got to find out. It's a struggle I go through. And a lot of times, honestly, when I sit down to work, people kind of look at me and chuckle because they see me struggle. And they're like, dude, you're not any different than we, isn't it? I'm like, why should I be any different than you? I'm here to struggle as you struggle every day, but collectively, we're going to find a solution. And that really removes the impediments in communication oftentimes. And they don't look at you as, somebody who just walked on water. Instead, they're like, you are struggling in water and beating the water, and you're not any different than us. And I'm like, no, it's just that I'm going to keep asking stupid questions to you until you find an answer. And my job here is not to give you a solution, but to keep asking questions until you find the answer. So there's no pretension on my part, and mainly because not that others are pretending, but I just don't have the need to go to that extent because I truly feel that every day is a struggle and not something where things are guaranteed and you are laid a red carpet to walk in. That's not the case in reality. It's always like, we got these problems. How do we fix it? I'm like, I'm not going to give you any answers right now because the honest answer is, I have no clue. And they're like, wow, you walked in, you have no clue. Yeah, let me be honest about it, right? So let's work together to fix it and find the problems and fix it. So to me, that's a very rewarding experience. And I don't have a problem being exposed because I go in exposed all the time.
So, a few months back, I read this book, Principles by Ray Dalio, and from that day, I was on a kind of a quest to find my own principles in life. That what exactly are my principles? So, my question to you is, what are your principles? What are the key principles of your life that you will just follow them whenever you are in times of crisis or an ethical dilemma?
The one that has worked for me really well is integrity and brutal honesty. And those have served me really well. If you ask me, have I made mistakes as a business or as an individual? Absolutely. We cannot prevent ourselves from making mistakes. Sometimes you have to make mistakes because of the situations you get drawn into. This is not something you have the ability to prevent sometimes. But whenever we have faced that situation as a business or as an individual, a brutal honesty and integrity has helped in two ways. One is it really has helped us to sleep better in the night. We're not sitting there biting our lips and saying, I wish I could have given them something different. We lay it out and say, you know what? We messed up. Sorry. And this is the consequence of it. And here's how we're going to bear the price for it. But surprisingly, and I'm not doing it for this reason, but surprisingly, when we are brutally honest, they also come back and trust you more in the long term. They say, for a minute, you did not cover up. For a minute, we did not have to spend the time arguing that this was a problem because you were ready to say it is a problem. So we were able to quickly move towards a solution. And every single time I've messed up, and I have quite a few times, people actually have come to me and said, you know what, you failed terribly. And I look at them and say, yep, I'm sorry. And they say, no. But what I want to tell you is, it's not about you failed terribly, but how you handled it. You earned my respect because of that, because you quickly moved forward to fix it. And as a result, our life is better. In spite of being affected by it, we are not chasing behind things right now unnecessarily. So you remove the drama from this entirely. And I say, well, I do that because not for you, it's for me because I sleep better in the night. When I wake up in the morning, I'm able to wake up without guilt in my mind. And to me, that's the principle, right? Integrity and brutal honesty has absolutely helped me in my business, in both ways, right? When I cannot do something for people, I tell them clearly, sorry, I'm not going to do this for you. I'm not going to accommodate that. And they come back and say, I'm thankful that you were honest because we are not going to get this from you, but at least you were clear about why and gave the reasons for it. And in the long run, we have maintained better relationship, whether we had business or not. That's been very valuable to us. So to me, I would say those are my principles.
So for the brutal honesty part, like, were you like this from your childhood, or you learned this along the way? Since a lot of people I know are like kind of people please or something kind of that, and they learn it along the way that okay, you have to be brutally honest, you have to say no, and you have to be direct with people. You don't have to round and go round and round. You have to be direct. Was it something you learned along the way, or were you like this from the childhood?
I would say that's something definitely I've learned along the way. As a child, you are in a very formative years. In all fairness, you don't have that many serious challenges to face as well. But over time, you realize, right? Even the challenges you face as a child, you make mistakes and you kind of learn from the outcome. And these are lessons you learn along the way, and you pick up along the way. But I think, like I said, mistakes are the ways we learn, are the ways we build. So over time, I think we learn, we figure out what works better, and more important, what makes us feel better, right? That's the always a important thing to think about as well. So these are the skills, things that you learn along the way as well.
I have a personal question to ask, so you may skip this as well. So I just wanted to know, like, why you chose freelancing over, maybe with your experience and your knowledge, you could have easily been at a senior position in some great company. So
Right. That's a easy question to answer because it was a hard decision to make. When I used to work for a company, um, I was making quite a bit of money, and I would come home, and my wife would always ask me, "I don't understand this. You're making a lot of money. You are a poor student. You are to the point of starvation, but you're making all this money, and yet you are unhappy. What's going on?" And my answer to her is, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And here's something I figured out. So I work in the industry during the day. I used to work in the industry during the day, and I still do. But I used to teach in the evenings at the university. And I would go to work at 6:30 in the morning. I would work until 4:30. I would drive across town. I would start teaching at 5:30. I'll finish at 7 o'clock. And I would sit down in the lawn at the university at 7 o'clock, and we'll just spend an hour to 2 hours just talking to students, right? So until 8:39 in the evening, I'll drag myself home at 9 p.m. So then I would look at this and say, here is the time of the day I was making a lot of money, writing code, working for a big corporation. And that's a time I was the unhappiest. And then here I am at the university making lower than minimum wage, but sitting down and talking to students, educating them, posing challenges, answering questions they ask about how things work, and the happiest I was during the day. And I kind of figured out, it took me about 2 years of debugging, and I found out that I was the happiest when I was not really working for a company, and I was the unhappiest when I was working for the company. And I realized money doesn't play a role in this. And, so then I asked myself, what if I quit from the company and start doing things that will actually make me happy, and then find a way to make money during that same time? And that was a very hard decision to make at that point. But once it came to a realization, it was much easier because it was clear to me that I would seek happiness more than money or title or position in a company. And once I quit my job, I was very fortunate. I was very successful in my freelancing. So money was never an issue after that. And so the wealth immediately flowed in. So I could have retired 15 years ago if I wanted to, and I would have been just fine. But the reason I continue to do what I do is because of the joy I get in what I do. And that's really the bottom line is I'm not a fan of doing things because they have to be done. I'm a big fan of doing things that provide value in the way that I feel that it provides value. And so that was really the reason. So your question is actually a pretty direct question, but it came out of 2 years of debugging. So I really took the time to figure out where my happiness was, my unhappiness was. And I have to say that it's been a lot of sacrifice personally, being a freelancer. I don't have a corporate backing. You're on your own, right? Everything you do, if you succeed, that's yours to enjoy. If you fail, that's your failure to, dwell in as well. But overall, from the happiness point of view, I've been much happier being on my own than I was ever in a corporation. In spite of the fact that I worked in teams that were super good, right? I mentioned earlier that I took my first job because that's the team I wanted to be in. In spite of that, overall, in spite of being in good teams back in time, I had a couple of different jobs, and in each one of them, I had super teams to work with. But I realized that that's not making me happy. There was something else, which is just to be out there, right, learning and innovating and sharing what you know, and fighting your battle every day for survival, rather than being in the safety net of unemployment. Again, people who are employed would disagree with me on the aspect of safety net, but it's all relative, right? When you have a job, compared to that, when you're a freelancer, your safety net pretty much doesn't exist, however thin it may be in the other case.
I thought maybe the answer to this question was based on your principle when you mentioned brutal honesty, and that wouldn't work in a corporate environment.
Actually, it did for me actually quite a bit. I was very fortunate to have people who really liked that kind of honesty and made use of it. I worked with some really decent human beings. I have to tell you that. I was very fortunate to have great people to work with. So me quitting was not because of the people at all. It was a lot bigger ambition of the life and happiness.
Found your
So we are
purpose.
almost we are over time, but for the last few questions that I have here, so one is, what advice would you give to a new developer who's coming into this space of software development, and someone who's at like a mid seniority level, like 5 to 6 years of experience? So what advice would you give to them?
For just about anybody, but especially the ones that are entering the field, my first recommendation is absolutely be shameless. I cannot emphasize that. Be shameless to ask. Be shameless to ask for help. Be shameless to use help. I was struggling a lot in various phases, but I will tell you, part of the reason I was successful was I was able to really ask for help and go to people and say, what do you think of this? Review this for me. Tell me how to improve this. Tell me how I should do this differently. So be shameless in asking for help, in asking for feedback. For a person who is, moving into a senior position, take your time to embrace the people. Don't forget that you were the junior once upon a time. That's easy to forget sometimes, right? We become senior. Oh, I can do things with ease now. But you were that person once upon a time who was not sure of things, and the rookie once upon a time. So embrace them and nurture the people that you work with. And the beauty is, I often say, knowledge is the only wealth that grows when it's given. If I give you $5, I'm poorer by $5. But if I share with you what I know, my knowledge actually deepens by the way of explaining it to you as you learn as well. So knowledge is the only wealth that grows when it's given. keep that in mind. So share your knowledge with those on your team. You are going to come out much more knowledgeable than before you started sharing, and then that's definitely worth it for both you and the person that's working with you as well.
Also, like any modern day philosophers that you follow or the books recommendations that you want to give.
I don't actually, so sorry.
That's all right. So, and the very last question that I want to ask is, that's a very bit of a personal question that I really wanted to ask you was, when I sent you that mail, you immediately replied to my mail and you said yes for the podcast. So I really wanted to know, like, why did you say yes to such a newcomer? Like, I have very few followers on YouTube, very few videos that I have created, and I'm kind of starting in this space. So, what made you say yes to me?
The second question you asked previously answers that question, right? So nurture the people around you. Knowledge is the only wealth that grows when it's given. So why wouldn't you want really to be part of the community, right? I often say that maybe there's a reason why we have two hands, right? And the reason we have two hands is one, so you can lift up people that need to be lifted up, and the other you can extend so others can lift you up. And we all are in that position. So I am here because there are people who lifted me, and if I have a chance to lift somebody else, why should I not do that? In the same time, it's not like I'm done being lifted. I'm still need help being lifted quite often. That's the world we live in, and there are people very kind enough to continue to lift me up every day. So we are all almost always in that middle, right? Nobody is in the end, nobody is in the top. We're all in that middle of this chain. And so there are people lifting me up, and it's only correct for me to extend the hand to lift somebody else up as well. And we are all part of this journey. And it's your turn to pay forward. And there are people that are going to reach out to you, and you can turn around and extend your hands to them, just like there are people who have been extending hands to me as well to lift me up.
Truly mesmerized by your view of life, and really glad to be here.
Very much fun talking to you, really. Thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure to have you on this pod, and such a great thinker, and I'm really mesmerized by all the things that you said, and I'm kind of taking notes in between, and we'll rewatch the whole video again, and yeah.
It was a pleasure talking to you again. Thank you, and until we meet again, so I'm sure our paths will cross again. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for taking out time.
I have one last question.
Oh yes, please.
Just curious. I saw you at Kids, and when you were on stage, you were walking in socks. So I just want to know the thought. I'm just curious to know, why was that? I couldn't help noticing. Yeah.
Oh, walking in socks is so comfortable than to walk around in shoes. So I almost always, when I start talking, I'm in my socks. I'm never in shoes. But there's a bit of a history. So way back in time, I'm talking about 20 years ago, I used to sit in a chair when I'm, speaking, and it's comfortable to fold your legs. And it's really hard to fold your legs when you have shoes. So I would remove my shoes and fold my legs when I was teaching. But over time, I ditched the chair and I stand, but I continue to be shoeless because it's just very comfortable not to have to wear shoes. So anytime I teach, I always I'm shoeless when I teach or when I speak. That's the reason for it.
Thank you. I'll sleep better at it.
Thanks a lot, sir, for
pleasure.
Time.
Thank you so much.
We'll create the recording and we'll share the link with you, and you can review it if there are some cuts that we want to make and all.
You can proceed with it. There's nothing for me to hide. So please proceed. No need for me to review it. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
And have a nice day.
भाई क्या बंदा है यार
recording बंद कर